Hey guys, welcome back to Super Switch U. Today we're finally going to do that video I've been talking about for a while, going through this very massive list of Wii games that have been ported or remade in some way to Switch 1. Um, and this is only going to be complete to physical retail titles, and it's kind of a very specific box here. So it had to be US released on the Wii. It can be import titles on Switch 1, but it just has to have English language support for a physical US release Wii game. So if it was on the Wii in Japan and then came over, but we never got it on Wii in the States or North America, it doesn't count. It's not going to be talked about here. And for the most part, I'm going to leave out things that are just like chunks of. So, like, yes, Metroid Prime Remaster is part of Metroid Prime Trilogy with the new play controls on Wii, but it's like a third of it. And the only exception to this that I am going to make is for House of the Dead 2 being part of 2 and 3 together. It was at least half of that on, so it's half here. And we may even adjust the numbers to reflect that it's a half, but at the same time, it is still the full game. So I don't know. That one gets kind of tricky. But if the Wii game is only part of a collection on Switch, it still counts because it's the full Wii game. So we're just going for like full Wii titles, North American released on full physical English language supported um, Switch 1 games. So with that said, I'm going to crack open the last of these poppies. I'm not going to make a huge deal about this. I mean, I know this one's, everybody was saying it's like the best flavor that they've gotten. It's like their best seller. It's the strawberry and lemon one. And I'll just let you know as we're going if this is any good. It already doesn't smell promising. Actually, yeah, that's probably the best one so far. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not modern enough for a modern cola. I don't know, but that's very unimportant to the video. So now we're going to just go ahead and jump in. So hopefully you stuck through with that very long intro, and we're going to rapid fire these because I believe my count was 42. So with that said, first game on the list is a limited run released game for Switch. So it was a full title on Wii. Limited Run did a release for it. It was A Boy and His Blob, the remake to the original NES title that the Wii got. We have that physically available thanks to Limited Run for the Switch. Next one is kind of a weird one because this feels like it shouldn't even be here. But Active Life Outdoor Challenge is what it was titled on the Wii, and then we got it because I bought this game. I bought this game after I found out and I wanted to like test it. Actually, no, it's the same. It's the same title, but the box art is like completely different. But this thing came with a leg strap. Most of the time when you find it bundled, so very much a thing. And Walmart had it for like $20 for a long time. But Bandai Namco put that game out. So yes, so on the Wii and on Switch 1. Next is a weird one I've never played, and the box art is so far different, you'd almost think this was a different game. But Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars was on Wii, I think along with like PlayStation 3 and some other stuff. And then they recently did Broken Sword Shadow of the Templars Reforged, which is, I guess, just remastering the same game, but for the Nintendo Switch and other modern platforms. So there's another one. That's number 3. Next one, I didn't even know this freaking existed. And I died laughing for like 10 minutes before then questioning what is even real anymore. Because when I was middle school, high school, my brother and I were trying to collect all the Wii games for some reason because that was a rough time in my life. Walmart put out these double packs of these really cheap, like Christmas time, grandparents buy it for their kids type of games. It has stuff like Ninja Bread Man and Billy the Wizard and stuff. And one of those, one that I got, it was Counterforce. And only found out today looking through this, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. I found out that this is actually on Switch 1, but it's going by its original name, I guess, from being in Japan. I didn't know that was a thing either. I thought this was just a cheap little, like, whatever game. But Counterforce on Switch is part of X Zeus The Complete Collection with its sequel that I also did not know existed. Would not recommend these games at all, but if you got a spare $80 to spend, that is what that's going for. It was a limited release, but Counterforce is on Switch 1, so that's crazy. We're going to do these next two together because I actually got both of them, picked one of them up from Colorado. I don't have them anymore, but De Blob and De Blob 2 both got Switch 1 releases. Full North America, not limited. Both are fully playable, and just as they were on the Wii, they are on Switch, but cleaned up a little bit, and I think maybe some modernized controls. But so yeah, De Blob 2. Moving on from there, first Nintendo game of the list, and one that came out this year, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. The third time they have re-released that game. So Donkey Kong on Switch 1. Another one I discovered today. Dokapon Kingdom was on Wii and then has been redone for Switch and I think a couple other platforms as Dokapon Kingdom Connect. But I did look into it, and it's the same game, which is also a remake of a Super Famicom game from like 1994, I think is what it said. All right, I've never played it. I don't know that I will, but that's the thing. Next one is another limited run release, Dragon's Lair Trilogy, which is a collection of games from, I want to say, the 90s, maybe even starting in the 80s. I'm not sure because I don't know that much about Dragon's Lair, but it was all three games stuck together. It was on Wii as a collection, and then the same collection is available on Switch, so that is technically a Switch port of a Wii game. This next one, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, is what it was titled on Switch 1, but it was originally, I want to say it was a Wii exclusive for a while. And then it got its sequels that went to everything, or sequel that went to everything, and then the 3DS one. But yeah, so Epic Mickey. This next one, had to look it up too because it's going by a different title. The Wii title was Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo's Dungeon, which now is Chocobo's Mystery Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody. It's kind of a very long title, but I had to look this one up too. It is apparently the exact same game redone, and though it did not get a US release on Switch, it is a Asian release that you could get through Play Asia. I think it's no longer in print, so you've got to find copies out there in the wild. But it does have English language support, so it counts. We got that one. Next up was also another weird one. I knew about this, but it's because I actually came across a copy of this game at Game Exchange in Shawnee. Go Vacation. It was a Bandai Namco game from the Wii that kind of seemed like a compilation of things trying to be Wii Sports or Wii Sports Resort, but without the Mii characters. And then for some reason, Nintendo published it for the Switch. With it still being a Bandai Namco game. I'm not really sure why they did that either. That was kind of odd. A little bit salty on the next one because there was a company in the US that was like Limited Run, but they weren't quite as big, and they started this whole campaign taking pre-orders and were supposed to release us a US copy. However, the Asian copy has English language support, so it does count. But the game in question from the Wii is Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus. That's a freaking mouthful. It is part of Guilty Gear 20th Anniversary Pack, which only contained 2 games, and it was that game and the original Guilty Gear from the PlayStation. That's part of why I wanted it. I wanted to play the first one, and there was that Wii game, and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. Still have not gotten it, but it still is one of those things I would love to check out at some point. So we've got that, and then we jump into the House of the Dead's, because we had House of the Dead Overkill on Wii, which was the first game, just kind of patched up and with motion controls, and then we got House of the Dead Remake, which is same game, modern graphics, modern music compositions and stuff, same game. And then what I had mentioned at the top of the video, House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return was on Wii. So we have half of that with House of the Dead 2 Remake that is either available or is coming. I don't remember when that launch date was. So since we got the 2, I'm sure it's not long before we'll see House of the Dead 3 Remake, and then we'll just have the whole thing. So I kind of felt like we should probably just count the double pack already. So then after that, we go back into another Nintendo title, Kirby's Return to Dreamland from the Wii. Got the deluxe edition on Switch last year, the year before. I don't remember exactly which year it came out. But it is very much the same game. All the extra stuff, cleaned up graphics. So this next one, though, is kind of a stretch, so just kind of stick with me for a minute. Klonoa from the Wii was a remaster, remake type of thing of Klonoa Door to something. I don't remember the title. I really should have gotten my stack, because I actually have the Switch version to this. But Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series was a compilation of both the first from the PlayStation and the second one from the PlayStation 2. And they put that on Switch 1. And though we did not get that physically in the US, there is actually a European physical copy, which is what I have, that absolutely plays in English and has all the voiceover, everything else. It's the same thing. So, technically, if you have the first one from the PlayStation, you have the same thing as the remake, you just kind of downgrade the visuals. So, I'm counting it. I'm going to count it. We got another Nintendo title. Let me take a drink real quick, because I've just been shooting these off rapid fire. The only Legend of Zelda game to make it over from the Wii was Skyward Sword. We got the HD remaster on its anniversary back in 2021. So we've got Legend of Zelda. This next one is a double pack on Switch, so it does actually encompass both. And it does get kind of questionable when we start talking about Lego games. And I'll explain that in a second. But Lego Harry Potter years 1 through 4, and then Lego Harry Potter years 5 through 7 were two separate games on the Wii, and they were released in a collection of both games for the Switch. And there was, at least one thing that you could almost count for Lego, but it's not quite the same. Star Wars, and I did not include it in this list. And that being the original trilogy on Wii was I believe that was the old style before they started doing the voiceover. They just kind of did like the weird grunts and sounds and whatever. And then if you go and try to do this comparison to that, to the Skywalker Saga Lego game, that's more modernized. The levels are almost definitely different. There would be almost no comparison other than the source material being Star Wars. So like you'd get the same experience technically, but it is not the same game, so I couldn't count that. But the Lego Harry Potters are the exact same game, so is the only Lego game to make it to this list. Next thing is also a bundle. The My Sims games. 2 of those have now made it off of the Wii and onto the Switch. And that was My Sims, the original, and My Sims Kingdom, both being part of the My Sims Cozy Bundle. So that is also part of this. And they look and feel kind of like the My Sims games did on the Wii. Just, nicely cleaned up and in a pretty little package. And maybe they'll do that for more of the My Sims games, and maybe they won't. We'll see. The next 2 are limited run releases. I had them at one time, but I didn't really keep a hold of too many of these like really raunchy, really gory graphic M-rated games because of the because of the boys. So maybe one day I will re-get those, but for now, they are no longer in the collection. But it's No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2. Limited Run did physical copies for both of those titles. And there's like I think two different artworks depending on if you got it from Best Buy or if you bought it from Limited Run. So both of those, and they are the Wii versions. Just to be like perfectly clear, it's not the PlayStation 3 Move versions of the game. It was the Wii games that were ported. Okami, I had this one too at one point, and I just struggled to even get motivated to start it. And then I tried to start it, and I just didn't get into it. Okami HD is on Switch. You can import that with full English language support. And it was on the Wii. I actually think motion control was an option too, so you'd get basically the exact same experience cleaned up. So you got that. The next one's technically GameCube games, but the fact that I also remember having the option for motion control basically covers the fact that they were new play controls from the Wii, and that's Pikmin 1 and 2. 2 being one of those games we got at the end of the Wii's life, and it only released as a Nintendo Selects, even though we never got it as anything other than that. But anyway, so we got that. Resident Evil games from the Wii era that have come over to the Switch. Can only count 2 because Resident Evil 1 is digital only. Even when you get the pack, the Origins pack, and it was 0 and 1, 1 had to be downloaded. It's not on the cartridge, so I'm being a little salty about that. But I'm not going to count the original, but Resident Evil 0 was part of Resident Evil Archives from the Wii, and then Resident Evil 4 had the Wii edition with motion controls, and you can use motion controls in Resident Evil 4 on the Switch, which it was part of a 3-pack as well on Switch, where it was 4, 5, and 6, but 5 and 6 were digital downloads. 4 was the only thing on the cartridge. So, very much still counts. Yeah, Resident Evil Triple Pack is what that was. Next two are some more limited run releases. Sam and Max Season 1 and Sam and Max Beyond Time and Space. Both got Switch 1 limited run releases, and they were physical North American releases on the Wii. This next one's a little bit of a stretch, but not really. Because you're getting the exact same gameplay. The only thing that might be different is menu options and maybe button layouts, but the actual core games are still the same. And that's Samurai Showdown Anthology, which we had on the Wii. And we also have Samurai Showdown Neo Geo Collection, which is still part of my collection. I got the European one, I think, and it had full English support. Neo Geo Collection, I think, just had extra games on top of the original. I want to say it was the 5 that was on Anthology. But the core games are there, so very much still counts. Sonic Colors Ultimate on Switch was just a cleaned up and added to version of Sonic Colors from the Wii. Star Wars Force Unleashed got a limited... Actually, there's 2 different ways technically to get this physically. But Force Unleashed on Wii is the same version that came over. Limited Run did one by itself. There was a whole package, had nice artwork, and then there is a Star Wars collection of some kind that's got like 9 different games on it, and only 2 of those games were not on that physical cartridge, and that was Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. But Force Unleashed was on that cartridge, so there's 2 different ways you can acquire that game physically for the Switch 1. Next is the game that came out on October 2nd, so the most recent Wii ports. And that was Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are both together on Switch 1. Or you could get the 3D All-Stars collection and have Mario Galaxy a little bit closer to the original way that it looked and played on the Wii, but without all the extra, like the story content and some of the stuff that they threw in, and no amiibo support in the 3D All-Stars. So if you want more of a Wii experience, you get the 3D All-Stars, pay a little bit extra money, but you get 2 extra games. or you can get the cleaned up version, but it's still the same experience at its core. Um, Slowly running out of time, so I'm going to have to do this very quickly. Um, Going back to some because I just realized I stuck these in a separate folder because there was like four of them. Um, but Just Dance has four entries that were on the Wii that were also on Switch 1. One of those skipping Wii U. 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 were all on Wii and on Switch, whereas 2020 did not get a Wii U port. The first three did, so it's kind of weird, but that is what they did. So, and we'll go back over here. Where was that? All right, we're real close to the end, guys. So, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz got a release from Sega, so now there is the HD version to that with the option to not have the motion controls like the Wii had, or you can do the motion controls, which adds the actual difficulty and intent of the game, so it doesn't feel like it's too easy. And then finally, this was a GameStop exclusive in North America, but it was everywhere on in all other countries. But Xenoblade Chronicles, first one, was on Wii, and then we got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which is really like the best way to do this, with all its new cutscenes and stuff and cleaned up visuals. But it is the same game. So that is number 42, I believe. Let me double check my count, but it was the four Just Dance. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 2, 42 or 43. I may have a bit of an off count there. So it is a fairly decent chunk of that Wii library. That's the point that I wanted to make, is that this is not even the most complete when you come down to how many games from the system are on here and what percentage of the overall library is there. Because unfortunately, we had a lot of shovelware titles that just would release like a plague almost. None of which were very good. A lot of things were licensed and a lot of stuff. There's no way that it's ever coming back because I don't think anybody has the rights to it. Or if they do, they are just never going to do anything with it. So, I mean, there's still a lot of potential for good games to come over too. Nintendo's got a very large library from that era, that system, that we have not seen. So, as long as they don't do Wii classics for Switch 1 or for Switch 2, it'd probably be Switch 2 at this point. As long as they don't do that, we still have the possibility to get these remasters and remakes of these Wii games. So we could get things like Kirby's Epic Yarn. We could get Punch Out would be great. We could. I was trying to think of all the like heavy hitters that we don't basically have the experience for. I could do that in a separate video though, because I'm definitely not thinking on that at this moment. But yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy that we have what we have on the system, and there are some good heavy hitters here, like your Donkey Kong Country Returns and Skyward Sword, and Epic Mickey being there was something that I didn't think would ever happen until they did it. You got some of those oddball things, like Counterforce, which felt like shovelware, and I sure didn't think that was even here. Just Dance is being supported all the way up to 2020 was crazy, and I feel like shortly after that was when they started going digital only, maybe 2 to 3 years after. And then, of course, getting at least one Sonic game, even though I would like to get Secret Rings and Black Knight brought over. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I did like those games, and so that would be cool. Things like Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam would be great. Rampage World, not World Tour, Rampage Total Destruction would be amazing to get brought over, or just a collection of Rampage games. That World Tour, Universal Tour, the original NES, stuff like that. But like I said, I can't complain. It is a nice little chunk of Wii, and I definitely plan to do more of these, going over at least all of Nintendo systems. When you start going into PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that, you're going to see a lot of things repeated from the Nintendo list, all those third-party multi-platform titles. So I don't know how much of that I'll go into, but there are some exclusives, so I can't completely write those off. Um, but for now, especially since Galaxy and Galaxy 2 just came out, this was fresh on my mind. I wanted to do this list. Um, yeah, let me know what you guys think. If I missed anything, absolutely let me know. But like I said, we're just kind of going over the physical retail release for North America stuff. So as long as it falls into the parameters that I set at the beginning, where it had to be U.S. released Wii onto English language supported Switch One. Um, if I miss something there, let me know, because I would love to check that out and see, and I can do some revisions to this. But yeah. And if you liked this video, definitely hit the like button, but also comment down below. Let us know what you thought. If you were surprised by any of these titles being physically available on Switch 1, like I was, some of those weird oddball things, you could definitely let me know that. If there's a specific console that you want me to do next, of those games being ported to Switch 1 or Switch 1 and Switch 2, depending on when I get around to those videos, I can do that too. Just let me know. I will do the requests before I just start going down the list of wherever I feel like jumping in. Um, but yeah, hit the like button if you like the video. Subscribe so we can get to that 1,000 subscriber benchmark. And hit the bell notification button so you can be alerted to all upcoming videos, because they are not consistent by any means. I just try to do at least a handful in a week, unless something happens in my personal life and I just can't get to it. So, and with that, if you've made it this far, or even just at any point to this video, I absolutely appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so very much, and I'll catch you guys next time.